Welcome to Building Solid Foundations. I'm your host, Steve Matley. We come to you on KCAA radio all over Southern California on 1050 AM. If you want to check us out and you're not able to see us live, go to the KCAA archives, or better yet, go to one of our streaming channels. Building Solid Foundations channel is on Roku. It's on Amazon Fire. It is on the Android app. You can also catch us on any of a couple of dozen podcast platforms as well, and we show up on YouTube. So check us out anytime you have a chance. And today we are going to be talking with Lori Davis. Lori Davis is a mentor, an entrepreneur, an educator, certified empowerment facilitator, and an author. She comes to us from Alberta, Canada. Started her business at the age of 12. That was her first business to help support her family. She took time out to receive her education and worked 15 years in the public school system and then left that to pursue entrepreneurial goals, and she's never gone back. That was 38 years ago. She is the founder and CEO of Self-Worth, The Missing Link, a series of over 600 workshops that Lori authored to support others with their healing, learning, personal and professional development. So she is an educator like I am, both in the formal world and the informal world, the business development world. Lori has worked internationally with her products expanding across all cultures. She serves adults, youth, young children, and the repair and restoration of their self-worth. She's worked virtually since 2002, well ahead of the pandemic trend, 20 years ahead of that, and as well over 25,000 hours delivering her workshops online. Obviously an early adopter. She has been in the broadcasting since 1998 and presently hosts her own television show with the E360 TV 5 days a week. Her last book was a #1 international best-selling compilation book called Ignite the Entrepreneur, where she was invited to submit a chapter alongside with 34 other international entrepreneurs. The book's in its first day reached international status in 8 categories. She is the director of the very first Canadian network of GSFE, that is the Global Society of Female Entrepreneurs. And by the way, you may not have known this, I am a member of the Global Society of Female Entrepreneurs. I guess I'm the token male of the group. Over the years, Lori has accumulated a multitude of awards for her work in the world. Welcome, Lori. It's great to have you on Building Solid Foundations. How are you up in Canada?
Well, thank you for that wonderful introduction. And actually, it's quite beautiful here. We've had above zero temperatures now for about 3 weeks. Snow is melting, and really doesn't make me want to go to California right now.
Yeah. Well, Canada's a beautiful place. It does obviously have a little more severe winters than we have, especially in Southern California, where severe winter in San Diego is when the temperature drops below 60 degrees and the wind comes up. We all grab our parkas and complain a lot. And then, of course, in the summer, anything over 80 is considered too hot to even exist. So we are definitely weather wimps down here. And we do see a lot of Canadians in the winter down here. We see lots of Canadians, especially like in Palm Springs area. See a lot of Canadians that come down, the snowbirds, yes, and that's a good way to deal with things, is to be where it's nice at different times of the year. You go wherever it's nice at that time and enjoy it. So welcome, Lori. So you are an entrepreneur. So you worked in the public school system, I assume, in Canada.
Oh yes, East Coast.
Okay.
Many years ago.
East Coast of Canada. So in Quebec or in Toronto?
No, east on the water.
Like
Atlantic.
Newfoundland?
Yeah, Nova Scotia.
Nova Scotia, okay.
That's my home province.
Oh, is it? Okay. So that's close to Anna Green Gables territory?
Yes, absolutely.
My kids loved that book, and it's like they set that as, life goal mission to visit the place, sort of a thing.
Oh, yes.
And for their age, in the late 80s, they made an entire mini-series, television series out of the book that had a big following, and my daughters just absolutely loved that stuff. So, yeah, so very familiar with that. I've never been there myself. That's on a list of places I would like to go at some point. But and so now you're in basically Western Central Canada, I would say.
Yeah, Western, yes. There's only one province left west, and that's British Columbia.
Right.
We border on the state of Montana. So
yeah, you're the Rockies state there in Canada. So for those of us down here on the south end, it would be kind of the Utah, Colorado type area is where that is in Canada. The Rocky Mountains and all the ski resorts. And, of course, home of the Edmonton Oilers and the Calgary Flames, and from the hockey and the Calgary Stampede. So that's where that is. So how is you worked in public education, I assume K-12, if that's right, the
yes.
elementary schools. And that, I'm assuming, is what gave you the basis for what you're doing now, which is you're still an educator. You're just educating in the private sector. So, why did you choose teaching? What led you down that path?
Well, actually, I didn't really want to be a teacher. I wanted to be an interior designer.
Oh, okay.
When you were a woman in the 60s picking a career, you either chose nursing, teaching, or at the best, a hairstylist. And of course, my family didn't have the means or the way to fund that because in order to get a degree back then in interior design, you had to go to Toronto. And this is a long way from home for me. And I got a scholarship to the Nova Scotia Teachers College, and that was my option. So that's where I went. And it wasn't really by choice, it was by design, I guess, because out of there came lots of benefits.
And I was saying the irony there is I work right now. I run a construction management program for an architecture college in San Diego. One of the programs they have is interior architecture and design, which is overwhelmingly female students. The vast majority of the interior designers are, in fact, female now that I see. So I guess that's just, we're all, I guess, to some degree, victims of the era in which we come from.
That is correct.
So, but it worked out. So you went into teaching, and were you teaching like kindergarten, first, third grade, or were you teaching kind of more of the fifth, sixth grade or older kids?
Well, I did kindergarten for 6 years, and immediately as soon as I started my career, I wanted to be, I wanted to be the boss. So I started applying for administrative positions, and I was really
Okay.
young and female in the 70s, and well, that was a no-no. So eventually, I did get a position, and they came to me and said, "Well, if you're going to be the vice principal of the school, you can't be teaching kindergarten. You'll have to move up to grade six."
Okay, yeah, get the top grade at that point.
Okay.
Yes. Now, see, I went to public schools in the '70s, and there, I believe, all the principals were in fact male. However, I was put in a private school, a Catholic school, and at a Catholic school, guess which gender the principal is? They're a nun, right? That's who runs the school. So if you want to be a female teacher in the '70s, you had to join the convent. Is how that worked.
Well, actually, the two people who ran my school were the janitor and the secretary.
That since yeah, the janitor tends to run more things than people know.
You
Yeah.
became very good friends with them. Mhm.
Yes, yes. Well, they know where everything is, and the janitor gets you all your supplies. And if you want to have chalk for your chalkboard, you know you got to be in good. Otherwise, someone else gets in. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you worked in what's that?
You're right. It was a great foundation. You were right. It was a great foundation.
And if you can so working in college, one thing I learned is I worked at a school where we had just a couple of really fantastic general education instructors at the college. They both had been kindergarten teachers. And I learned if you can teach kindergarteners, you can teach adults because kindergartners do not have very good attention spans. They get distracted by everything and they need to be fully engaged at all times. And guess what? Adults, pretty much the same formula.
Yes, that is correct.
So if you can teach kindergarten, that's a great foundation for being able to teach anybody in a interpersonal and engaging manner. Kindergartners will let you know very quickly when they're bored with the lesson plan. Okay, so you started that, and then you went into your own private business of teaching. So what prompts that? Why did you decide to? Because usually public education is considered sort of a safe, very steady, solid career. Most people, they're good for life as long as they don't do anything really crazy or radical. They can stay there, get a great pension. They get lots of government holidays off and those things. So what makes you go out of there into the high risk world of running your own operation, and all the everything's on you now.
Mhm. Well, I had the opportunity to join, and everybody knows this company, Mary Kay Cosmetics.
Oh
I was
yes.
still I was still teaching, and I got invited to a presentation, skincare presentation. And I refused the invitation like five, six times before I actually said, "Oh, all right, I'll go, but it's not my thing."
Okay.
And I went, and the young lady who did the presentation, I thought, wow, they're teaching us how to do this. I'm all over that. So I asked her if they were looking for people, and she said, I'm just new. I don't know. But anyway, long story short, I made the right calls. And so I started with that organization very part time because I was very busy and my husband was very politically active. So had a busy life. And I thought, well, I just want to do this for fun. Well, 18 months later, I was driving my first pink Cadillac to
That's pretty
school
quick to move up to that level. That's one of the higher
from my
levels.
part-time cosmetic business. And I thought, this is a no-brainer for me because it's about teaching. And I could teach people how to sell better than I could sell. So I ended up being with that company for 12 years. And that's where I acquired a lot of great skills in marketing, selling myself. And Mary Kay was still alive back then and would make trips to Canada because they were opening up Canada. And I was part of that team. So that was another huge part of my foundation. So my formal education was only just the first bit. Then I did that. And then I thought, wow, I learned things about myself I didn't even know.
So we're going to take a short break, and we're going to take a short break. We're going to come back and finish up this story. So now we know the base, the foundation, and the basis for how you got to where you are, and that's always important to know where that came from. So we are going to take a short break. We'll be right back with Lori Davis. She is an entrepreneur, educator, and empowerment facilitator, and an author. This is Building Solid Foundations. I'm your host, Steve Matley. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after this.
Fire Up Connect is the most innovative business networking group, supporting and collaborating with a dozen of small businesses that are interested in building and establishing strong business connections, hosting educational live seminars while carrying out business and community-driven projects, as well as marketing programs as a part of its membership program. Fire Up Connect also offers virtual assistance with a wide range of services including inbound customer support, chat support, appointment setting and email management, graphic designing, video editing, web design and development, social media marketing, e-commerce solution, content writing and much more. For more information, head on over to www.fireupconnect.com. Fire Up Connect, helping success stories unfold every day.
Building Solid Foundations Radio.
Hi, this is Jim McLaughlin with Effective Action Consulting, and I've been a member of Fire Up Connect for, probably 3 years now. And what I really like about Fire Up Connect is the unique model that we go through, that we follow, the agenda, so to speak, in the meeting that really has us get engaged and involved with each other in the meetings. It's not that we're individuals, it's that we're all really working together to better ourselves, our businesses, and the community through the projects that we work on. So I'm really grateful to have the opportunity to network with people in this environment, and it's really impacted my business in a big way. So take a look.
Welcome back to Building Solid Foundations. I am your host, Steve Matley. We are today talking with Lori Davis. Lori Davis is an educator. She is an empowerment coach. She is an author. And she was telling us about her background in educating people. And she was telling us how she originally learned as an instructor, starting in kindergarten, working up into 6th grade, and then joined the Mary Kay organization. And I will say, Mary Kay is an organization I've always thought was fantastic. Obviously, I was not part of it. I wasn't their demographic. But they had, I worked at a school where we were larger than our space allowed, so we rented an adjacent office park building. And one of the units in there, across from where our classroom was the Mary Kay Training Center. And so whatever lady owned that particular part of Mary Kay and had her group, she would almost every day of the week have ladies in there learning how to do makeovers, learning how to sell, doing rallies. They were noisy and having a lot of fun in there. And you'd see all the different people in their different jackets or outfits depending on the rank. And then it must have been, I don't know, at least 15 pink Cadillacs parked outside of different shapes and sizes. So obviously she had built herself a really good team, because I know the Cadillac doesn't come until you've achieved pretty well. So that's a great organization. Okay, so after Mary Kay and the school, what's the next step on your road into getting into your own business?
Well, I left the company in 1992, and at that time I met my current husband, Ron, and he was in the aircraft industry and getting ready to retire, and I was between careers, and he just asked me the question, so what do you want to do for the rest of your life? And I said, I've always had a dream of owning my own private training company and doing school my way. And he said, well, let's just do it. And we did it. And we just opened our doors for business. That was in July the 2nd, 1992. And we've been in business ever since.
And it's so well, you get to teach your way, meaning you know what you need to do, you know what your target students or audience need from you, and you don't have to worry about going through the system, the process, the formula, the templates. You kind of know what works for them and can implement that. Is that right?
Well, because of my background, though, Steve, I don't believe in not having hardcore curriculum backing it up
Okay,
and educational principles backing it up.
that's right.
So I could pull from that. And to date, we have over 700 workshops to support people in their learning, healing, personal and professional development. And I started out with 10 workshops. And I had I started with two friends. I said, I think I'm onto something and I need a couple of guinea pigs. And they said, okay. And they were trashed. Their husbands had run off with the secretary, that kind of deal. And so I said, well, if you would help me to see, because I don't think everybody needs a therapist. I don't think everybody needs to go to counseling. Sometimes we just need information, and not to disrespect those professions because we do need them and there are places for them. But for me, a lot of times people just need a safe place where they can go and work on themselves. So we don't put more than 6 people in a workshop. And of course, all these things came over time after making all the mistakes. But about 5 years into the business, I came home one day and I said to Ron, I said, you know what? I've discovered something like the guy with the intermittent windshield wipers.
Right.
I said, I know something. And he said, what's that? I said, after teaching school, being in sales and marketing for 12 years, in our business for 5 years, I've discovered 3 things about people. Number one, everybody's walking around thinking there's something wrong with them. Number two, a lot of people lack confidence. They don't know how to take a risk without all the ducks lined up. And number three, poor communication skills. And I am going to do something about that. And Steve, I did.
Okay. And I think that's probably a very good synopsis of what the overall human condition probably is out there for all of us. And even the most confident people you meet, you don't know what they're dealing with internally. And everybody's got challenges. There's the old thing of if you walk down the street, you probably would not want to trade places with anybody that you pass by. They're all going through something, even if they look good, smell good, and seem like everything's going right in the world. You just don't know. So you have 700 workshops. You started with 10. What kind of topics are we talking about in these workshops? What do you talk about in there?
Well, everything we do, all roads lead back to those 3 things. So shortly into delivering those 10 workshops, I thought, okay, this is working. So I just need to go find some more customers. But then I had one of my clients come up to me and say, have you ever thought about developing something for youth? Because they could really use this information and the weekly support. We only do workshops 1 hour at a time. It's not a 3-day seminar where you don't remember anything after you leave. The success of what we've done has been in the delivery system. And so I said, sure. And then the next thing you know, I have 40 workshops for youth. Okay. And then the next thing is when we were doing that initial core, what we call our core workshops, the 2 areas that are the most stressful for people, finances and health. So I went back to the drawing board, created 40 workshops in finance and 40 workshops in wellness. And I had some support with professionals to do that. Then I realized, wow, trouble in paradise. Couples need a place to go, not with a room full of people. See, the problem is, Steve, a lot of people go to huge gatherings to try to do their personal work.
The marriage weekends and those kind of things. Yeah.
Doesn't work. You're not going to feel safe. So
Yeah, no, I don't think anybody wants to stand up in a room of 100 couples and announce how messed up their marriage is.
No. So we started working with one couple at a time. We call it creating a power couple because everybody has both parties takes two to make it, two to break it. We have leadership, huge, beautiful components for leadership. I recently developed 100 workshops for entrepreneurs. My first group that I enrolled in that are now they just completed workshop number 87.
Wow.
Never missing a beat because they love it. Because of the delivery. No more than 6 people in the room. It's like a mastermind group. We've just recently developed a product for worthy Indigenous parenting. So we have a huge Indigenous population here in Canada, and parenting is a huge situation for them. So I just keep evolving and developing as the need arises, but it always comes back to that worthiness. And when I started my work, Steve, I couldn't even find a paper that had been written on self-worth. I couldn't even find a book. It didn't exist.
Yeah, I think the earliest book I read that had anything to do with self-worth, I believe, was probably Zig Ziglar's See You at the Top, which was published in I want to say the late 70s. But I don't know how much traction it had back then. That's the first time I'd ever really heard that term. And of course, I didn't read it back then. I read it 15 years later when I was kind of more college aged, At that time, it was considered older. But that was the first time I'd ever encountered that. Now, obviously, there was a whole trend that happened following that with the self-esteem movement. But that's the earliest I remember. So when you were doing this, I would say you were on the early end of that.
Yes.
Yeah.
And because of that, a lot of people in the first stages of this didn't even know what I was talking about. See, right. Zig Ziglar, Mary Kay and Zig Ziglar were very good friends. And
yeah, they went to church together in Dallas, yes.
Yeah, at our workshops. Now, he would be what we would call a motivational speaker.
That's right.
He wasn't really someone who supported people. No disrespect here, but
he was a sales trainer is really what he was.
Yeah,
yes.
Speaker. And a speaker isn't the same thing as a coach. I don't coach anybody. A coach is a totally different set of skills. A teacher is a different set of skills, but a facilitator and a mentor, those are separate levels of skill.
Right.
And I took some extensive training around that in '94. And I was the toughest client in the room. Why? Because I'd been a teacher and I was so programmed. I couldn't go to the bathroom after I left teaching and I was out on an appointment. If it was 10:30, I'd look at my watch and say, do you mind? I have to go to the bathroom and have an apple because it's recent.
Yeah, break time. That's right. Yeah, and we get into our routines and our assumptions of how things should work.
Programmable.
Yes, the human animal lives by habit, and there's reasons. There's a lot of research that went into that, but the reasons for that. I think is it's less, it's efficient. Our brains are less taxed if we can do things repeatedly. It kind of says, okay, well, I guess this is what we're doing, so we'll just automate that. Kind of like when you're working in a Excel program or something, and you say, what, if I just automate this, then the numbers will just do their own thing. It makes it easier. You don't have to keep redoing it. And so our brains do the same thing, although sometimes that works to our benefit, and often that does not work to our benefit. A lot of times we program ourselves the wrong way. And then we've got bad habits.
Practice makes perfect.
Right. Whether
even if it's the wrong thing.
Yeah, yes. We can practice to do all the wrong things and be perfectionists at doing the things the wrong way. And sometimes it's not doing the wrong things, it's just doing them the wrong way. Mm-hmm. So that's a lot of different topics to cover, and I think it's interesting that it seems to fly in the face of a lot of what the people that try to teach people how to put together training programs, what they talk about, how they want to do it. Now, you deliver these things in person, or you're delivering the things you said you adapted to online early, right?
We always did things in person. So, I'd have a group of ladies around my kitchen table. I made more money around my kitchen table than I could even think about. But in 2002, I had a phone call from a client of mine uh, in British Columbia. Now, I'm on the East Coast, he's on the West Coast, and I had a facilitator there. But he was very high tech, and he phoned me and he said, Lori, there's a new way to deliver information. It's called VoIP, Voice over Internet Protocol.
Oh, yes.
Now, Steve, I got to tell you, at the time, I had a computer, but I didn't know how to use it.
Yeah.
We're talking 2002. I had one in the office for admin and so on. So, but I trusted him and I said, so what do I need to do? And he said, well, there's no camera or anything. It's just voice. But the way that you deliver your workshops online would be perfect. So I enrolled with this company in Texas, cost me like $300 a month. That was a lot of money back then to be online. Now,
Yeah.
what's Zoom? 21 bucks a month? Okay,
Yeah.
good on us. And 3 months, and I convinced all my facilitators, because I've always had a team, to upgrade their computers, get a computer, because we're going online. This would make us international overnight. And when you lived in my neck of the woods on the East Coast, this was a godsend.
Right.
So anyway, they did all that, and 3 months later, the company went bankrupt.
Oh, wow.
Now we don't have the service. I had a group of blind clients at the time, and one of my girls said, did you know that blind people have been using this technology for a long time? We'll go and visit our tech support for the province, and he'll build you a classroom. I said,
Great.
okay. So we go to see him. He's blind. He was blind at birth, Jim. And he built me a classroom. I could put 15 people in it. That was it. But that suited me perfectly because I only put 6 people in a workshop.
Perfect.
So we went from
We have to take another break, and when we come back, we're going to pick up the story where we left off. We're with Lori Davis. She's talking about early online delivery of educational materials. We're on Building Solid Foundations. I'm your host, Steve Matley. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Fire Up Connect is the most innovative business networking group, supporting and collaborating with a dozen of small businesses that are interested in building and establishing strong business connections, hosting educational live seminars while carrying out business and community-driven projects, as well as marketing programs as a part of its membership program. Fire Up Connect also offers virtual assistance with a wide range of services including inbound customer support, chat support, appointment setting and email management, graphic designing, video editing, web design and development, social media marketing, e-commerce solution, content writing and much more. For more information, head on over to www.fireupconnect.com. Fire Up Connect, helping success stories unfold every day.
For Building Solid Foundations Radio.
Hi, this is Jim McLaughlin with Effective Action Consulting, and I've been a member of Fire Up Connect for, probably 3 years now. And what I really like about Fire Up Connect is the unique model that we go through, that we follow, the agenda, so to speak, in the meeting that really has us get engaged and involved with each other in the meetings. It's not that we're individuals, it's that we're all really working together to better ourselves, our businesses, and the community through the projects that we work on. So I'm really grateful to have the opportunity to network with people in this environment, and it's really impacted my business in a big way. So take a look.
Welcome back to Building Solid Foundations. I'm your host, Steve Matley. We are with Lori Davis. She's coming to us today from Alberta, Canada. We've been talking about her journey through education and then sales training and into her creating her own enterprise, where she was identifying the needs of people and how to create an education program to solve those issues, to solve what are people's deepest needs that that they need to be met. And she listed a lot of different topics that she covers, and all of those are things that seem pretty universally applicable. So when we left off before the break, she was explaining her adventure online involved early adoption of an online learning management system that ended up disappearing, and how her blind clients who had been using that technology for a long time hooked her up with someone that could design it. So he designed for you a virtual classroom that could hold up to 15 students, and so take us from there.
Well, we did that for a while, and it was quite expensive, and I got that. But eventually, the first companies started to emerge where you could have a subscription and get online. And so when COVID hit and this whole Zoom thing happened, this was old hat for us. This wasn't anything new. And back in the day, when the camera was not available, that's actually when we attracted our male clientele, because there was anonymity in that. And so men started coming to do their work and grow professionally and personally. Because let's face it, Steve, if there's no camera and I need to have a little breakdown, or I getting, there's no embarrassment or live circles or whatever. So that was a blessing for us. And then it's just been forwardly mobile since then. And it certainly cut back on our expenses drastically. Back in the day, I no longer had to rent hotel rooms and office space and so on. So we've had the benefit of online for 20 years. It'll be 21 years in April.
Yeah, and that's well ahead of most online platforms out there, including most of the major universities, colleges, and school systems.
Oh, yes.
Well ahead of the curve on that. And it is a way to get to people that you normally could not get to. And if you have a valuable service and it relies strictly on in-person, this is what Amazon and eBay figured out. If you have to have people go to the store to buy things, you're limited to the people that live in a drivable distance. And if you open that up to anybody with a computer, then all of a sudden the world's your oyster. You have to ship it. And you don't have to ship things. You're delivering learning. So you don't even have the second step of trying to find out how to ship a product. So,
well, we did, it's getting less and less, but for years we shipped workbooks and product. And my first international client was a group of people from Taiwan. Dr. John Lin, psychiatrist, he put all of his professional staff into my workshops. And I ended up actually going there for 2 weeks. This was in 2007, to train them up so they could deliver the program. And that was our first translation. Our core empowerment program was translated then into Chinese. So that was our first language transfer. And that's 7 years after, only 5 years after being online. So then the next step was, it's been translated into Spanish and German and French. And it just really expanded that whole opportunity for us. But now we're digitizing all of our workbooks so we can just send them out digitally, because shipping went up 230% during COVID.
yes.
And we didn't want to put that cost on our clients anymore.
Well, yeah, and you can deliver things in a PDF format to anybody
yes,
nowadays.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely.
Right. Yeah, and that's what my model shifted a little bit too. Now my business is very different. I work in education, but my real business is I do real estate development projects.
You do what?
And real estate development projects.
Okay.
All over the place. And one thing I would do is we have to raise capital, so I'd have these investor packages, and then when we getting ready to sell the projects when they're done to a developer, then we have to put together packages, for the property and what we've done. And especially with the investors, I would always meet face to face with them. I talk with them. We meet. I give them a booklet, the whole thing. And obviously, in the pandemic, we could not do that.
No.
And so we were forced to do everything remotely. And now the idea of printing one up and sending it out just doesn't make any sense to me.
No, I know.
I can put it in a PDF and send it out, and you've got your information. If you want to meet me face to face, we'll set something up. But there's really no need to. I can Zoom. I can Teams.
Yes,
I can do
absolutely.
whatever. Yeah, I can even FaceTime you, whatever on the phone.
Absolutely.
So if you want to look at me, and I get that, because a lot of times in my business they want to look at me in the eyes while I'm talking to them, which I don't blame them. So, but we can do that now. Education wise, and it's because you were in this so much earlier than most people. The school I work at is primarily architecture and design. I run probably the only non-design based program because I run construction management, which is like a business discipline. But they had a real issue with how to go on. We were forced to go online, and this was faculty. A lot of the faculty were of the idea that you cannot possibly teach architecture online. You have to be in the studio. You have to be in the collaborative environment. You have to be where everybody's standing around critiquing the plans and putting their 2 cents in. And they didn't have a choice because it was either that or we don't do school, which is a problem for the students and the faculty, right? Paycheck stop and progress towards your degree stops. So we had basically 2 weeks to figure it out. And all of a sudden, okay, well, there's Teams and there's Zoom and there's Miro and there's all these different applications that'll allow us to do this. And there's applications where you can put a document up and people in different places electronically can at the same time be in it. So there's your studio experience. And of course, they're back on ground now, but it did change the mindset a lot. And, you know, the idea that you were doing this 20 years before the pandemic ever hit, you know, that's pioneering is what that is.
Yeah, I've done a lot of that.
Well,
I've had people say to me, you can't be teaching this stuff. You're not a psychologist. You're not a therapist. I said, well, I'm not a counselor either. I don't counsel anybody. We educate people. It's called
teacher.
workshops.
Yeah, it's a teacher.
I have credentials to teach. So that's what we do.
That's right. That's right. And I have taught subjects that I don't have a doctorate degree in. It doesn't mean I can't learn the information, assimilate the information, and pass it on to other people.
Yeah. So
yes,
and I created that too. I duplicated, I have duplicated myself. I've always had a team of facilitators that I certify to teach my stuff.
Right. Well, obviously you'd have to now that you're doing it in multiple languages, unless you want to go back and learn half a dozen new languages.
Even before that, I realized, wait a minute here. I'm not going to be able to do this all by myself.
Right. Especially with the small groups you have. You have these cohorts of 1 to 6 people. You obviously could not scale that if you were doing everything.
No. But my first group, Steve, you know how you do, if you're going to mess up, do it with a small group of people.
That's right.
So it doesn't ruin your reputation. But my first group started with 2 friends. 6 weeks later, I had 28 people come into my little postage stamp office for the workshops because they kept bringing people.
Okay, so your friends had a good experience then.
This isn't going to work. You can't do your work in a room full of 28 people. So that's how we scaled it down eventually. But anyway, trial by error. Right.
And you got to figure those things out. And when you're doing a lot of the topics that you're getting into, I think you have to find that sweet spot of, okay, this is enough people to create conversation, dialogue, and exchange of ideas, but it's not so many people that people don't want to share. It's not enough people that nobody gets a chance to say what they need to say, or, there's a balance in there.
Oh, big time. And when you go to, let's say we go to a speaker or we go to a seminar or workshop and there are 500 people in the room and it's a lecture setting, the retention rate there is only 2% of implementation. Right. So you don't really learn anything if you don't implement it. If you're getting all kinds of information and you're not doing anything with it,
that's right.
You might as well not even bother.
Well, and that's what makes me think of the most public universities with these 500 to 800 people, freshman English classes and things. You're going, okay, nobody in here is learning a thing. This is a show up and check this off of your transcript.
That is correct.
And you leave with nothing but an emptier pocket and an expensive textbook and basically a waste of time. Is what it is. We're going to take another short break. I hate to be so cynical about education because I like education, but that's kind of my thought of those. So we're going to take a short break. We'll be right back after this with our final segment. We're talking with Lori Davis. She is an educator, entrepreneur, mentor, trainer, and all around visionary, I would say, based on what our conversation. This is Building Solid Foundations. I'm your host, Steve Matley. We'll be right back after this.
Fire Up Connect is the most innovative business networking group, supporting and collaborating with a dozen of small businesses that are interested in building and establishing strong business connections, hosting educational live seminars while carrying out business and community-driven projects, as well as marketing programs as a part of its membership program. FireUp Connect also offers virtual assistants with a wide range of services including inbound customer support, chat support, appointment setting and email management, graphic designing, video editing, web design and development, social media marketing, e-commerce solution, content writing and much more. For more information, head on over to www.fireupconnect.com. FireUp Connect, helping success stories unfold every day.
For Building Solid Foundations Radio.
Hi, this is Jim McLaughlin with Effective Action Consulting, and I've been a member of FireUp Connect for, probably 3 years now. And what I really like about FireUp Connect is the unique model that we go through, that we follow, the agenda, so to speak, in the meeting that really has us get engaged and involved with each other in the meetings. It's not that we're individuals, it's that we're all really working together to better ourselves, our businesses, and the community through the projects that we work on. So I'm really grateful to have the opportunity to network with people in this environment, and it's really impacted my business in a big way. So take a look.
Welcome back to Building Solid Foundations. This is Steve Matley. We are on KCAA 1050 AM. We're wrapping up with Lori Davis. She is an educator, a mentor, a trainer, an author, and a long list of other things out of Canada. She's been a fascinating conversation with her. And Lori, we've been talking about your background, how you got into this, what you do in your company, a lot of the innovative, truly innovative things you were doing. People now wouldn't think they're innovative, but they truly were when you started them. And what I want to move next to is you've also been in the broadcasting world. So we're on a radio / broadcast / streaming show, and you have a background in that. So how far back does that go? How did you start that?
My first show, 1998. My sister said to me, you should be on the air with that voice. And I went, yeah, right. You know how sometimes other people see things in you? I said, oh, I've got time for that. Like, really? Anyway, she said, yeah, and I know exactly where you need to go. Chum Radio, the largest national chain of radio stations in Canada. They're doing a live golf show. They're looking for somebody to promote the golfers, help to encourage them. It's a 3-minute speech, 3-minute gig. I said, I've never played a game of golf in my life. Anyway, I got the gig. I drove an hour. Back then it was mainstream. You had to go to the studio and everything. And I got on there for 3 minutes and would drive home. I did that for 6 months. Loved it. Oh. Then they said, hey, they're looking for a talk show host on Sunday night. You'd be great. You should put a proposal in. I put the proposal in and I got it. And that was the beginning of my broadcasting. Mainstream radio. I've done internet platforms. If I went on to a native reservation and they had a radio station, I do a show. And of course, that led to, I was always a big fan of Larry King and great interviewers, and I really mentored with that. So yes, I've been broadcasting for about 25 years now.
Okay, and that goes back a long way. And obviously, radio has changed a lot in that 25 years.
Oh, yes.
It's a very different world. And you mentioned Larry King. He was radio, but he was also television. He was very early on the cable systems. When those were brand new, he was one of the people that you'd see on the cable when nobody was really watching cable yet. But he was there, and he made a name for himself and a huge reputation, and talked to anybody and everybody you'd ever think was interesting to talk to.
Mm-hmm. I liked his style.
Yeah, he was very good. He wasn't flashy, and he really tried to make sure that every one of his guests was highlighted the best possible way, even if they were a personality that, had a little bit of animosity around them. He was always very congenial and tried to put him in the best light. Yeah.
Yes. So it's been a joy.
Right. Okay. Great. Yeah. And do you still do any? I mean, obviously you appear on this show, but I'm sure you are a guest. But do you still do any of your own podcasting or radio shows?
Oh yes, I do. I broadcast 5 days a week.
Oh, you okay?
I have
great.
An online internet television show.
And
yes.
Okay, and which show is that?
I'm affiliated with E360 TV, and it's called The Lori Davis Show.
Oh yeah, we actually.
So people can go in and check it out. I've got about probably 150 episodes in there right now.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And I interview
Okay.
all different kinds of people. I do panels. Sometimes I do a solo show if it's something I want to talk about.
Okay.
So I cross those borders so that my viewers have a variety of, it's not really canned per se. So
Right.
I have discussions, not, I don't do formal interviews anymore.
Right. That's kind of how I approach things too. As you can tell, I'm a, let me know what topics we want to discuss, and then let's approach it like we're just having a conversation over coffee. And there's a lot of people eavesdropping.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Let it kind of flow organic. I appreciate the organic conversations. And one reason I started this show is I just wanted to talk to people I thought were interesting people to talk to, and it's a way to do it. And I can, if other people listen in and that we get to share it with them, that's great. That's wonderful. But it's really because I like learning things from different people and
Right.
meeting interesting people.
Well, back in the day with Chum, you weren't allowed on the air unless you took their very formal broadcasting training. So there was another opportunity for me that I had that supported me with that. And I just always have used it. See, and that was before online. So 1998, I'm broadcasting and I'm learning the ropes and everything. And then 2002, that VoIP became available. So it was a natural step for me to go there. And now I actually have a workshop I do called Powerhouse Podcasting, and I teach people broadcasting protocol. Mhm.
Okay, so that adds another workshop. So pretty much anything can be a workshop if it's something that there's a people that want to learn.
As long as the person delivering the workshop has the credibility, I'm okay
Right.
with that.
Right. Okay. Now, you and I are both members of a group called GSFE, which
Mhm.
most people, when I tell them that, they're surprised because it is the Global Society of Female Entrepreneurs. And it is, as far as I know, almost all female. It's international. There's groups. It was started by Robbie Motter, who is a dear friend, wonderful person. She lives in California, but she has these groups, and they're all over the U.S. They're in Canada, and then across the country. I actually traveled with a group of them to the UK in December, where they launched 2 chapters in the London area. And I think it's a great organization where they reach out. Their goal is to do, I guess, on a little more of a networking and social scale, a lot of what you do, which is to help teach and empower women entrepreneurs to be better at their business.
Yes, and I was the first Canadian to join the organization. And we actually officially made the organization international when Robbie approached me about opening up a network here in Canada, and would I take the lead on that? And I said I certainly would. So that was about a year ago, and we're working to build the Canadian chapter. So we officially on paper made the organization international, which I'm really excited about.
Right. And I was invited to go along. No, I wasn't a member, but Robbie has done so much stuff, and she was one of the biggest supporters of the events we did when I was the president of a nonprofit group. She'd bring
Wow.
people out and really support us. And so, I asked her, I said, well, instead of just going along, I'm happy to, pay the dues, be a member and be a part of this thing if you'll let me. I understand if it's, she said, oh, it's not just for women. It's open to everybody. We just focus on women. I said, that's fine with me. So I joined up with that because I would support Robbie in pretty much anything she did. She's an amazing
Awesome.
person. Yeah. So we're running out of time. I want to thank you, Lori, for being on our show. If you want to check out Lori, go to E360 TV, check out the Lori Davis Show, find out what she has to offer. Do you have a website for your curriculum if people want to sign up?
Actually, I've just revamped my whole site, but our website is selfworththemissinglink.com.
Okay.
And we've had that site for years, but we're doing huge upgrades right now.
Fantastic. So you want to check out Lori Davis, find out what she has to offer, check out her programs. And if you need anything, you can also go to the Lori Davis Show at gmail.com to email her, the Lori Davis Show at gmail.com. This is Building Solid Foundations. I'm your host, Steve Matley. And until next week, go do something different this week.
Miss your favorite show? Download the podcast at kcaaradio.com.